Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today I've got two more sets of top 8 deck lists from the Reign of Jafar. Happy Reign of Jafar to all of you. Gonna keep this one short and sweet. We've got two large events to look at. One of them comes to us from France, Ludotrotter, the Ludofest, which was 286 players, so a huge pool of data. And we're gonna be looking at an event from Poland, which had 108 players, the Disney Lorcana Quest Tour number 4. I am going to group up the deck lists that share an in combination across both events. It just flows better that way, in my opinion. If you disagree with that, then let me know down below, but I just think it gives a better flow to the video. So we're going to get into it. A shout out to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's look at some top 8 deck lists. So we're going to start off with our 286 player event over in France, Ludotrotter, with the first place list, William Lefeur, with some EA Tempo. Just pull the lever, because we do see the new package from set 8 here, 4 copies of Pull the Lever, and only 2 copies of Wrong Lever, so not leaning as much into that. But yeah, I was surprised the other day to look at a couple of EA Tempo lists, with or without the discard engine, that weren't playing this Pull the Lever engine, because I do think it's really cool, and obviously it's the new toy for EA Tempo, but the majority of lists choosing to include it, the flexibility of Pull the Lever being able to either draw 2 or make your opponent discard, and then Wrong Lever, which even without a Pull the Lever in the discard is a bounce back to hand. It's an inkable, non-singable Mother Knows Best, and I will absolutely take the inkability. And this bounce effect has been important for green-purple decks for a while, for bouncing back things like Shark, people often playing Mother Knows Best rather resentfully, but Wrong Lever does the job on an inkable card, and if we have a Pull the Lever in the discard, then we can put that card at the bottom of our opponent's deck. So normally with a Mother Knows Best or a Wrong Lever without the Pull the Lever, if you're just bouncing back to hand, that might be all the board tempo that you need, but it's still technically a -1, whereas if you've got the Pull the Lever in the discard, then Wrong Lever is indeed a 1-for-1. The majority of our shell is built around that discard engine. We are running 3 copies of Prince John, 4 copies of Sudden Chill, for Bruno to be spot removal and discard, of course the Ursula 2 drops, and that wide Diablo engine with 12 shift options for the Devoted Herald. We got 2 foxes and 3 crabs to let us have some control over the board. I think these are reasonable counts. I don't think this necessarily needs to be 4-4. You're more interested in being aggressive and making your opponent discard anyway. But nice to have these in here as an option. 2 copies of Peter Pan Shadowfinder, which can be an answer to opposing Diablo, and of course give rush to our 3 Genie and 3 Iago Giant Spectral Parrot. 4 copies of Elsa. You got to get rid of those opposing birds, and you can boost it up with a crab to answer sharks if you don't have any other sort of removal. 1 copy of Belle, which I think fairly good odds to be able to have damage floating for you to move here. The Iago and the Genie are quite big bodies, and even if you're just moving 2 from like the Ursula or the Fox or the Crab or something like that, and again Belle does indeed quest for 2, and we've got 2 copies of Cricky to turn our small guys into hard hitters, giving them all +3 strength, and Cricky quest for 3 in and of himself. And then to finish off, we've got 4 friends and 1 copy of It Calls Me, which is a 1-cost inkable song. Draw a card, then choose up to 3 cards from chosen opponent's discard and shuffle them into their deck. So just a 1-drop cantrip is perfectly reasonable to include in any Diablo deck, as long as you get the turn 1 Diablo. Turn 2, you might be missing the Devoted Herald, or, well, if you likely not missing an action, because the It Calls Me is the action. So say you're missing the Devoted Herald, and you get to dig a little bit deeper to try and find it. This is going to help you do that, and it does have some niche interactions in the meta in general against any Shern-Dog deck that wants to fill its discard to fuel a Lady or a Shernabog. This It Calls Me is going to help if you're against like a Ruby Sapphire deck with items that they want to get back with either of the Tamatoas, and this can certainly provide some value. So yeah, cool inclusion, a bit of a wider toolbox-based package, but overall looks really good. I think this Pull the Lever engine is such a great addition for Emerald Amethyst, and of course they'd be doing burb discard things, but looks good. Congratulations to them. And in second place at the Ludotrotter event is Kiyu, probably saying that wrong, but shout out to you, on a nigh identical list. We've got the same theming going on here, 4 Pull the Lever and 3 Wrong Lever. All the discard stuff, but just some different counts. We are seeing 2 copies of Chip here for that instant discard on play, and we're seeing 1 copy of Improvise. No, It Calls Me. and no Bell. So a couple of player preference choices, but by and large the same sort of thing. And again, this was nearly 300 players, the same, nearly the same list, getting first and second. Says an awful lot about the power level of this deck. So yeah, it looks super good. Congratulations to them. And to round out the Emerald Amethyst decks, we'll go over to our Poland event, 108 players. A 61 card deck here, but we are not seeing that wide discard package. No Diablos, no Sudden Chills, no Prince John. Again, going a touch more traditional Emerald Amethyst tempo. We're playing just 2 copies of Pull the Lever and 2 copies of Wrong Lever. Perhaps strange counts? I can understand playing a lower count of Pull the Lever. You're already running 4 friends, right? So like 4 friends, 2 Pull the Lever sounds pretty good. But if you're going to run 2 Wrong Lever, I don't know. I feel like I would just want to either the 3rd Pull the Lever or just play 1 Wrong Lever. But again, as I've already said, Wrong Lever, even without a Pull the Lever in the discard, can still just give you the board tempo that you need. But to look at the rest of the shell, we've got 4 genies, but we are seeing 1 rabbit in here, which I do like, 4 crabs, and 4 foxes, 4 Go-Go Tamago in here as well. Our 1-drops are Diablos, Rafikis, which the stats on Rafiki seem pretty important right now for things like Rhino, and of course 4 copies of Cursed Merfolk, pretty staple in the old school style Emerald Amethyst decks for being such an aggressive opening. And we're running 2 copies of Lal Tiberius Rourke to give a character Reckless on play, and your opponent loses a law every time one of your characters is banned. So in against aggro or a mirror match, then Lyle can certainly put in some work. So yeah, it looks really nice. The counts of Pull the Lever and Wrong the Lever, I feel like I would want to tweak a little bit. But other than that, looks really good. Again, it's nice to see the traditional versions of Emerald Amethyst still performing well, and maybe we've got this Pull the Lever, Wrong Lever engine to thank for them coming back into the spotlight, right? Nonetheless, congratulations to them. Those are all the EA Tempo decks, so let's stick with Poland for a minute to look at the first place list. Bonanza, 61 cards, Amethyst Steel. This ink combination being the ultimate mid-range deck, in my opinion. We are running both genies and rabbits. For that reason, we're not running any docks. So while we do want to be aggressive and probably play out a lot of our hand, we are still looking to accumulate card advantage. We can bounce these rabbits courtesy of 3 foxes and 3 snake. We've got 3 crabs in here to go with the 10 1-drops, the broom being the 2 of. 3 Peter Pan Shadow Finder to help with opposing Diablos, and you can crab boost it for sharks. There's 1 Iago Spectral Parrot in here, and we do have a nice song package as well. 2 Storm, 4 Strength, and 3 Zeus. The Strength and the Zeus certainly very common in these Amethyst Steel decks. The Storm's less so, but there's only 2 here. I think it's good. And a spicy one off, we've got the Madam Mim Elephant. 4-cost Inkable 3/7 quest for 1. On play, you need to bounce a character or she's banished, as is the style with all Madam Mim cards, well, most of them. And then Sneaky Move. At the start of your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. This can certainly come up. She's got a big, bulky 7 willpower, so if you can put damage on her in a challenge and then survive around long enough for you to be able to move that damage, then that seems like a pretty cool play. I like just 2 Calhoun. They can feel a little bit cloggy. I do wonder if 3 Shadow Finder was necessary. You have other ways of dealing with the Diablo. I suppose it's nice to have another quick shark answer. Again, you have 3 Zeus, but nonetheless, went all the way in a over 100 person tournament, so looks good. Congratulations to them. And the other Amethyst Steel deck list to look at today, going back over to Ludotrotter, we have a 62 card list from Michael. This one opting to play docks, no rabbits in here, so a full 4 count of Genie, and we're playing 4 copies of that Giant Cobra for some extra reach and 3 goats. 4 foxes and 2 snakes to bounce those goats. Again, 10 1-drops with the 2 ofs being the Chernobog's followers. In the past, I'd have always said, yep, this seems fine to me as a player preference. I do think at the moment, just because of Rhino, I think you should be prioritizing the characters of 2 strength. That being said, the fact that this deck has Zeus does certainly help against Rhino, so maybe that's enough. But just one observation, I like the one-off Helga Sinclair with Challenger 3 and getting evasive during your turn. 0/4 body is pretty good, even for an uninkable. No Peter Pan Shadow Finder, but still playing 2 copies of Iago Giant Spectral Parrot. I'm not a fan of Iago unless you're running Peter Pan or unless you're Blurple personally. But it's only a 2 of, and even if you just play him on 4, then he's still a big body that your opponent has to deal with, which is hard if they're not on steel, especially. 2 copies of Library. I've mentioned the songs, but we're also running 1 copy of Restoring the Crown. Let's go. 6-cost uninkable. Exerts all opposing characters. Whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge this turn, gain gain 2 lore. Super situational. You need to have a wide enough board, and hey, like wide enough could just be 2 or 3 characters, like board state depending on how much lore you actually need to get. But if you've got, say, like anything from 2 to 4 or 5 characters, and so does your opponent, and you've both just been a bit of a stalemate, again, not wanting to give your opponent the momentum to start the favourable challenges for themselves, something like this to just exert everything down, and then like the lore gain you can get for, like, you hopefully take the board, and then that lore gain either puts you in front or is maybe just winning you the game. And again, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a wide board state, right? Like if you're at 18 and you both got one guy down, and you just play this to exert them and challenge, gain 2 lore from the challenge, then game's over. So a situational one but one I do like. We're playing docs anyway, so like if we draw this too early, then we just discard it as one of our on our doc play. So yeah, I like the inclusion. Looks a lot of fun. Congratulations to Michael. Sticking with our France event, in top 4, we have Nicholas with the one and only Ruby Sapphire list across both of these events to make the top 8. We see the DKP style of list, just the Porpsicles, no workshops, no coils, none of that sort of stuff. We do have the 4 copies of McDuck Manor, which I did comment on in the last video. There was a player playing a DKP style of list, but without the manors, and I did question it, and I said, hey, if you're watching this, let me know, like, was this fine? Would you put them back in? Did you miss them? And the player seemed pretty happy with them being cut, saying they always had just ended up being ink. So I respect it. You know, some players doing very well with it. I still like the inclusion of mana though, and just creating that sort of decision paralysis for your opponent where they need to turn sideways to hit the mana, unless they've got easy get outs like the like hideaway, stuff like that. But because you want them to turn sideways so that you can get value from these Maui sharks that we see who have evasive, and when you challenge a character, you can return an action from your discard to your hand, and you gain 1 lore whenever you play an action. A wide action package, 3 develop, 4 sail, 4 vision. I don't know why this isn't just 4 develop though. I mean, I'm sure this is just fine, but again, like getting down a Maui or 2 and then just chaining actions, like so often seems to be the win condition of these sort of decks. We are playing 1 copy of Hades as some extra removal in addition to the 4 B prep. We have 3 Brawl and 3 Big Sisu. Again, no ways of manipulating strength, but Sisu can often get her prey. There are plenty of very significant characters with only 2 strength. 4 copies of Tamatoa just to recur those Porpsicles, and that's all you need. Just these Porpsicles that draw you a card on a 1-cost card is perfectly fine for this Tamatoa to find its value. We are playing 4 copies of Bell, so looking for that high roll on turn 1. Ruby Sapphire traditionally a very slow deck. It can struggle against aggro, so if we can open Porpsicle Bell, that's going to really help us in the early game and just leave us free to ramp in peace and build to the late stage of the game where this deck shines as it does. 4 copies of Grand Martala to filter, help us find pieces, and of course 4-cost characters are very significant in Sapphire because they can sing How Far I'll Go, another excellent ramp tool, and to filter and help you find more pieces of your deck. And 2 copies of A Pirate's Life for me, again, against the aggro decks. Against any deck, but aggro especially, which sort of, you know you're going to win the board. Like, it's just, do they win before you get there? And quite often they do win before you get there, but if you can at least get to 6, which again, if you're ramping, is available from like turn 4 or 5, then, you know, that might just give you the turn that you need to be able to get to that Sisu, get to that B prep, and then from that point on, if they're just topping especially, hope that you have enough removal options, extra Sisus, preps, brawls, all these sort of things, and great actions to help you find those pieces. So this deck is just continues to shine. Only 1 copy of Ruby Sapphire in these 2 events, but I'm sure we will see it again soon. But looks good. Congratulations to Nicholas. Sticking with our France event, also in top 4, we've got some Blurple, a fan favourite. I'm not even going to attempt to say this name, but shout out to you. But yeah, Blurple taking advantage of the ramping tools of Sapphire, that inkable turn 2 ramp in the T-pose and Sally Azure at Sea, so meaning we're getting to our 4-drop a turn sooner, so we can take advantage of things like 4 Genie, which is our primary draw. We're not playing any well, we do have other draw, but we're not playing rabbits, is my point. 3 copies of Iago, obviously, well, you could play Shadow Finder, but we're not playing it here, but you don't need to in this deck in particular, because again, turn 3 Iago is perfectly reasonable. 3 copies of Scrooge McDuck as well, who's a 5/5 quest for 2, being able to play that on turn 3, that's a big body, good odds that you get like 4 lore out of him. And continuing up the curve, of course, 4 Elsa, a staple. You really do need them for Diablos, for Genies and Sharks. Again, sometimes that requires a crab boost or a couple of challenges, but they're just such an important piece. Or even if, like, even just for the exerting something down, right? just so that you can control the board. For 3 copies of Elsa, we've got some big bodies here, the Genies, the Iagos, the Scrooge McDuck, and then as you continue up the curve, there's some mighty big bodies out there, so good odds that Belle is going to get that value. Going back to our, other than the Porpsicle, only 1 drop, we're seeing 4 copies, I bet this is on thumbnail, of Royal Guard. You'll love to see it. He's a 1-cost inkable 1/2 quest for 1 and heavily armed. Whenever you draw a card, this character gets Challenger 1 this turn. Now, I said right from the review stages of Reign of Jafar that I do think this is an interesting 1-drop. The only problem is, like, in Amethyst, you are competing with some of the best 1-drops in the game in Chernobog, Diablo, and, of course, Magic Broom. And some iterations of Blurple choosing to not play any of them and just stick with the Porpsicles and the Bells, who we do see here as well to help in that early game. But the Royal Guard is still pretty cool, and there's some high roll potential here for this deck especially, because whenever you draw a card, so you draw for turn, so this Royal Guard will always have, at the very least, Challenger 1, and will be hitting with challenging with a 2/2 stat line. If you're able to then also play Friends on the other side, suddenly he is a 4/2 beat stick on a 1-cost character. If you play Finders Keepers, he's a 5/2 beat stick. And hey, if we're chaining these things together, maybe we got a Royal Guard on the board, we play a Genie, then we sing Friends on the other side with like our Bell or our Crab or one of our 3 drops, whatever. Or sing Friends and play Finders Keepers, and suddenly you're hitting for Challenger 5, no, Challenger 6, and some Porpsicles in there. This Royal Guard can be an absolute powerhouse. I think it's a really cool inclusion. Continuing up the curve, we've got just 2 copies of Tamatoa Happy as a Clam to recur these Porpsicles. 4 copies of Hades. We do need removal. It's kind of what this deck lacks. Again, they have the Crabs and the Foxes, so they're pretty good at challenge-based removal, but and obviously Elsa to exert things down. But if you lose the board, it's tragic for Blurple, so Hades certainly helps in that regard. And another card that helps you to keep the board, or at least respond to it, is Monstro. 2 copies of the 8-cost inkable 6/8 quest for 2 Rush, and you may choose and discard a card to ready this character. He can't quest for the rest of the turn, but he can indeed keep on challenging, get rid of that library, that McDuck mana, then continue hitting characters. You got 8 willpower, good odds you survive, and then sit there prepared to quest on the next turn. Monstro, a staple of Blurple in my opinion. So yeah, this looks really fun. I love the inclusion of the Royal Guard. Again, I haven't played with Blurple for a while, so like I can see the high roll where it could be really cool, and I am a Royal Guard enjoyer. I would be interested to hear from this person, like, how did it test in this event? Obviously it made top 4, but are you a Royal Guard believer moving forward, or was this just a fun experiment where it was like, he was okay, but you could probably switch him out? I need to know. Royal Guard stands, are you with me? Nonetheless, congratulations to them. And also on Blurple in the top 8 of Ludotrotter, we have Jonathan with a lot of similar things going on. No Royal Guard, which is disappointing. Instead opting to just play those 4 Porpsicles as the 1-drop, and of course the Bell here to help in the early game. We are running a couple of copies of Shadow Finder, so even there's no Iago in here. There are no Iago in here. Okay, so this Shadow Finder is an answer to opposing Diablo, which is reasonable. This in combination can struggle with that. It also will give rush to the Genie, so that is pretty cool. But yeah, no Iago. Colour me surprised. 3 copies of Bell, only 3 Goats, 4 Elsa 5th Spirit, and was playing 3 copies of Elsa Spirit of Winter, who can shift onto this Elsa, or just pay 8 ink for her, because we are ramp, so we should get there at a reasonable point in the game. On play, choose up to 2 characters, exert them, and they can't ready at the start of the next turn. And then you are a 4/6 quest for 3 body. I'm a big fan of Elsa. 3 copies of the Big Bad Monstro, and mostly an action package you would expect. Friends, Let It Go, Sail, Finders Keepers, all standard things, but we are also seeing 2 copies of... Is it creepy, or am I making it creepy? Nonetheless, it's a 3-cost inkable action. Up to 2 chosen characters can't ready at the start of their next turn. Draw a card. I just think this is super good in many situations, whether it's just stopping your opponent's aggro decks, just slowing them down so they're not winning the game, getting the chance you need to build up that ink and be able to respond to it. If you're at a stalemate and you've got a couple of characters each, but your opponents are slightly bigger, so they can afford to be turning sideways, or they're evasive, whatever, again, this like buys you that turn to like draw more cards. I think it's just a nice option, which I feel like would come up a lot. I haven't done much play testing with it, but it's been used against me. But in principle, I'm a fan of the card, especially at an inkable, just 2 copies of it. And then we're seeing 2 copies of Second Star to the Right. 10 cost uninkable, sing together 10, chosen player draws 5 cards. Worth pointing out, in set 8, we got a new Sing Together 9 song, Fantastical and Magical, which is Sing Together 9 for each character that sang this song, draw a card and gain 1 lore. Now, I'm not saying that's better, but just it's alright, and its existence means we should always kind of like make comparisons about which would be better. Obviously, the higher roll with Fantastical and Magical is if you are singing it with 3 or 4 characters, then you're drawing that many cards and gaining lore. Whereas second star to the right, maybe you just want to sing it with like a Belle and an Elsa, or a Tamatoa and a Goat, something like that, in which case you would gain 2 lore, draw 2, which is still pretty good. But drawing 5 cards is obviously huge. That being said, we are playing like the Finders Keepers, Popsicles, Genies, not like, again, there are bigger packages in Amethyst for a draw engine like rabbits and stuff like that, but I don't know, I really like the inclusion. I would love to know how much it actually came up, and I wonder if there were many situations where Fantastical and Magical would have been better. I'm not expecting that to be the case, I'm just curious. Nonetheless, great to see some interesting new cards here and some older ones making an appearance. Congratulations to Jonathan. And our third and final Blurple deck, going back to our Poland event. In top 8, we have another very cool looking version. No 1-drops, no Royal Guard, just going for that seemingly traditional 4 Popsicle and Belle. Most of these cards we've already talked about. 3 copies of Peter Pan Shadowfinder and the 3 Argo are in here. 2 copies of Monstro, 3 Hades for that removal. But we're also seeing 2 copies of the new Blurple song, Into the Unknown. 3 cost inkable, puts chosen exerted character into their player's inkwell, face down and exerted. So very, very similar, of course, to Let It Go. The difference being that the opposing character has to be exerted, so that's the negative. But on the plus side, it only costs 3 as opposed to Let It Go's 5, and as such can be sang by characters cost 3, such as your Foxes, your Crabs, your Peter Pan Shadowfinders, your Bells, and everything that costs more than that. I do really like this card. I'm not confident enough yet to say which I think is better at the moment, if you should be leaning into one or the other. Experienced Blurple players, I would love your feedback down below in the comments. Those of you that have done playtesting with both Let It Go and Into the Unknown. What are your thoughts? I'd be very interested to know. I imagine I'm leaning more towards the Into the Unknown being better more often. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear from experienced Blurple players. But yeah, it looks really good. Great to see a lot of Blurple doing well in this format. Congratulations to them. Sticking with our Poland event, going back to second place, we have the first of 4 Amber Steel deck lists to look at. 3 from the Poland event, 1 from the France event. And we're going to be starting off with this second place list. A Whole New World classical variant, 4 Zeus, 4 Strength, 4 Storm, and then our flex songs. We've got one copy of World's Greatest and 1 copy of the Bare Necessities. We are seeing that new Rhino line that seems to be this pretty staple now in most Amber Steel decks. The 1-drop being a 1/2 quest for 1, and you can give a character -1 strength on play. And the Floodborn being a 4-cost inkable, 4/3, quest for 2, shift 2, so you can get this out on turn 2, an epic ball of awesome while this character has no damage. He gains resist 2. So incredibly tricky to deal with. Zeus obviously does the job, but any of the other Steel songs, Storm does nothing unless there's already damage on him, and Strength, you need to get up to 3 characters before you're even doing 1 damage, and Ruby Amethyst is very much adapting how it builds its deck just to respect this Rhino, or at least Ruby Amethyst players, you should be building your deck to respect this Rhino. But yeah, it's such a fantastic new tool. We're also seeing, though, 1 copy of Darling Dear, Beloved Wife. 5-cost inkable, 4/4, quest for 1. And on play, chosen character gets +2 lore this turn. So, situational, but not a hard situation to fulfill, that by the time you play this, you have at least 1 character on board that is now questing for an extra 2. Maybe that completely upsets your opponent's maths, and they do, because, like, again, Amber Steel doesn't traditionally have much, like, leap outside of respecting a shift. They don't have many ways of like gaining lore uninteractively, so this is going to absolutely catch people off guard. I bet it did through this event. People made decisions thinking, okay, you can't get there, I win the race, I'm able to clear the board, whatever, and then you just chuck down this Darling Dear and for an extra 2 lore, and that's just a game ender. So I'm a big fan. I'm playing 1 copy of Gaston Baritone Bully in addition to the Aerial to be a reliable singer with that 3 strength, evading Brawl. 2 copies of Daisy Duck, 4 copies of Troubadour here, no Miss Bianca, but the SteelSong players have spoken. They've said this Troubadour just puts in work more often, especially in the mirror match. So you'll have to see it with this Singer 4 keyword. 2 copies of Prince Naveen for a Panic Whole New World or a Tempo Along Came Zeus, and sticking a quest for 2 Singer 6 on the board is pretty nifty. And 1 copy of the ever-growing in popularity Aerial Sonic Warrior, who's a shift 4 on top of our Aerial. And whenever you play a song, you can pay 2 ink to deal 3 damage to chosen character. That is a lot of damage, and with less Medusa in format, seemingly, for some strange reason, this Aerial is getting away with a whole lot. But yeah, this looks really nice. I love the addition of One Darling Deer. I really think that's just the surprise factor would give so much value to this. I'm a big fan, so it looks good. Congratulations to them. We'll stick with the classical variants to start. In top 8 over in Poland, we've got Pepperson. A very tight deck list here, looks super consistent. We're running 2 copies of Bare Necessities as our flex songs. We are seeing 2 copies of Miss Bianca in addition to the Troubadours, who you can play 2 ink less for if you have an ally on board, and Troubadour will certainly fill that purpose, and so will Lawrence, to be fair. And Rhino, who we're seeing here at a 4/4 line. That 1 copy of Aerial that we're so used to now, and 4 copies of this Prince Naveen. You are never stopping me singing. And interesting to see Robin Hood, like, making his way out of a lot of these SteelSong decks now, which does make sense. Like, if you're finding space for your Rhino shift line, it's absolutely fair enough. It takes away your ability to do a shift turn 3, immediately sing Whole New World. I don't think that line is possible here at all. So you're probably relying on your 3-drop Aerial to be your singer, and that can easily be Brawled or Strength or something like that. So Prince Naveen, I think, becomes more and more important now that we're not playing Robin Hood, to make way for this Rhino line, although some lists may try to do both. But this looks really tight, looks good. Congratulations to them. And going back to top 4, we have the first of our aggro Amber Steel lists, which put in an incredible performance over the weekend. The video that I released just yesterday, looking at 2 large events, were both won by Amber Steel aggro. Very similar looking lists with just a couple of player preference choices. And we see that same thing here, with the bulk of this list being what I would expect to see, but with a little bit of spice. So shout out to this player, a 2-line special. This do be Diggy Hole, 4 copies of that 7 Dwarves Mine, which gives you 1 passive lore, and when you move a character there, you can deal 1 damage to a character. But if you move a knight, then you can do 2. We're not playing happy, so we're not like raising our count of knights, but we are playing 4 docs, which is more than enough, and we're going to be digging for these anyway, and altering for them, and just hoping to draw into them, because this is how we're going to continue to draw cards, along with 3 copies of Rapunzel. But she's not always the safest. You shouldn't always assume that you're going to get Rapunzel value, but we do have a couple of big bodies here to help that be more likely. We've got Daisies, we've got Lawrence, and we're seeing 3 copies of the new Namari, who we looked at yesterday, was in both of the Amber Steel aggro lists that did well. 5 cost Inkable, 0/5, quest for 2. On play, and at the start of your turn, you can draw a card and discard a card. Great, let's find the pieces that we need, let's filter through. And she's a quest for 2, and this character gets +1 strength for each card you discard. Again, throughout the first few turns, you're going to probably have stormed or strength something. You've probably lost a Daisy, a Cinderella. We've got 4 copies of Mulan here, who again is a turn 1 filter to draw and discard. Piglet's probably going to be an early target, and assumedly then you're playing docs and you're throwing more into the discard. And good odds that this Namari, by the time this comes down, has anything from 7 to 15 strength. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case, but I think it's good odds that by the time you put this Namari down, a lot of the time, she's going to be a big girl. 4 copies of the new Lady Family Dog, who on play, you can play a character of 2 cost or less for free. Such an incredible piece for these aggro decks. A lot of different Amber decks combined with different inks, taking advantage of this lady and what she can do, rushing in a Piglet, a Lilo, a Calhoun, a Doc, a Smee. She's so good. She really is. And another card that's going to work really well with these 1 or 2 cost characters are the 3 copies of Perdita Devoted Mother. Let's go. 6 cost uninkable, 1/6, quest for 2. On play and on quest, you may play a character with cost 2 or less from your discard for free. 6 willpower means she's big. It's going to be hard to get around her with any of the SteelSongs. Obviously, she's so easily removed by Ruby's removal, like Brawls, etc. Even the Daring Visitor Sisu. But you get advantage just for playing her. So even if she is instantly removed, then she still did something. Outside of Ruby decks, good odds she's going to sit there and get to do this a couple of times, get to bring back a Mulan if you just need to dig a little bit, get back a High Quester if that's what you're looking for, get back a Calhoun, get back a Doc. I love Perdita, mate. I'm so glad that 3 different versions of Amber Steel have all done so incredibly well in large events across the weekend, all with a very similar shell, but just with a couple of, like, player preferences showing, like, you can put some identity on this deck and still perform really, really well. There's a lot of really nice synergies that you can work into this deck, so I love it. Huge congratulations to them. And our final Amber Steel list, we go back over to Ludotrotter. We have Magma, 62 cards, but a 2-line special. I don't know if that's cheating. Nonetheless, it looks neat, and we see a lot of the same sort of things. We do see that Seven Dwarves Mine docks, but this time we have worked in the Happies. We've also worked in the Rhino shift line. Again, not just classical SteelSong that can benefit from this Rhino. It's just such an incredible tool to have in your kit. 2 copies of Helga is another way to answer evasives. And the player preference, the touch of spice that this player has put on this deck, are 4 copies of Goofy Groundbreaking Chef. 4-cost inkable, 3/4 quest for 2. At the end of your turn, you may remove up to 1 damage from each of your other characters. Ready each character you remove damage from this way. Again, a couple of big bodies here. Things like Helga and Lawrence are likely to build up some damage, or even a Daisy, or you can offset it yourself. Mr. Smees are obviously going to put damage on themselves to spite themselves, but also the Rhino, who's so hard to deal with. If your opponent tries some sort of like, okay, I'll deal with it across 2 turns play, they can do 3 damage to it. So with the resist 2, they end up doing 1 damage, and they're like, okay, resist is gone, I've got you next turn. And then if you're able to Rapunzel, or indeed just Goofy that damage off, or even just set it up yourself, right? You challenge something with Rhino, take the 3 damage, lose your resist, and then throw down a Goofy, and suddenly you heal and you ready him. Like, this Goofy seems like it's going to have a place in this meta. So again, same build, same skeleton, touch of player preference that has synergies with what this deck wants to do. Absolutely love it. Don't tell Lorcana about the 62 cards. Congratulations to them. Going over now to some Ruby Amethyst. We've got 1 from each event. Starting off with this super spicy looking version. We've gone down the evasive way of life. We're running those 4 Maui Sharks. We've got the Peter Pan Shadow Finder to give him rush so that he's online all the quicker. We're not playing any Iago, but we are playing 2 copies of Moana Island Explorer, who's a 4-cost inkable 4/3 quest for 1, evasive, and when she challenges a character, another one of your characters gets +3 strength this turn, which is a super nifty ability. I'm a big fan. We're also playing 2 copies of King Undisputed, which is one of my favourite cards in the game. Like, there was one period of time where I felt like it was okay to play King Undisputed because there wasn't as much Emerald around, so I had some fun with it, but I feel if you're expecting a lot of Emerald, this is not a safe card to have in addition to B preps. You are always going to end up like getting sniped by the Ursula. But if you're not expecting Emerald, or maybe you're playing triple deck constructed and you can ban it, then I think this King Undisputed is so good. Not seeing any ladies here. Again, King going to be the way that we get rid of those big bodies. And yeah, to go with this Maui Half Shark, again, traditionally Ruby Amethyst doesn't have to play a wide action package to go with this shark. Just having like friends on the other side, which I am surprised is the only 3 copies of. That's a little sus in my opinion, but sometimes just friends, B preps, and brawls are enough, which we're seeing here. 3 friends, but 2 B Kings going to work really well with the Maui, and we're running 2 copies of Hypnotic Strength, 2-cost inkable action. You draw a card, and a chosen character gets Challenger 2. We have this pop up every now and again. Like, again, people don't really play around it, and if you're able to give Challenger 2 to like your Diablo or your Kuzco, and then trade with something, and then you're drawing a card from you being banished, that's super good. And again, just another cheap action that's going to work really well with the Maui. We're also seeing 2 copies of Prince Eric, Expert Helmsman. Again, one of my favorite Ruby cards. I think Ruby Amber is the deck that that's his place in my opinion. So whenever I play some Amber Ruby, I always try and slip in one of these bad boys. I think he's a lot of fun. 4-cost uninkable 2/2 quest for 2, and when this character is banished, you may banish chosen character. Yeah, I like it in Amber Ruby, and in Ruby Amethyst, maybe if you're playing Teeth, I think that gives some nice synergy for it, but hey, why not include it? Have some fun. It's a decent card. And then the top line, pretty much what you'd expect to see, was playing genies instead of rabbits, 4 crabs and 3 foxes. But we're also playing 3 copies of Mulan, Enemy of Entanglement, 2-cost inkable 1/3 quest for 1. Whenever you play an action, this character gets +2 strength this turn. If this was before set 8, I would wonder if this is like meant to be the 1-drop. But I talked a lot yesterday when we were looking at Ruby Amethyst about how we need to respect the hamster, the rhino. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. One of them is to like increase the amount of 1-drops you're running that can hit for at least 2, like Chernobog, and you might want to include Rafiki's, things like that. Alternatively, like, you can play a 2-cost that has at least 3 willpower, and a way of being crab boosted to take out the opposing Rhino. That does come with dangers. It can be Zeused. They can strength it. They need, like, an extra 2 characters on board on their turn 3 before they sing with their shift 2 Rhino. But it can still be done. But if your 2-drop does stick, that's pretty good. And we looked at the other day at Ursula Mad Sea Witch, who is a 1/3 with Challenger 2, so she can survive a storm, and then she hits for 3 with the Challenger 2 she's got, and then you crab boost, you take out the Rhino. So the Mulan, as long as we play an action on turn 3, can do it. The thing is, if we're playing an action on turn 3, then we're not playing the crab. But we have a different way of doing it. We're running the 2 copies of Hypnotic Strength, which is going to give her Challenger 2, so she's a 3/3, and then she gets the +2 Strength from her ability, so she's a 5/3. So that is a really cute way that we can get around the Rhino and just big bodies of that kind. So I think this is really clever. I did not think of this at all. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but did well for this player, and hats off to you. I think this is super cool. And then to go with these Mulan, we're playing one copy of the Elite Archer, who on the turn you shift her, she gets +3 strength, becoming a 5/6 quest for 2. And when she deals damage to a character in a challenge, you can deal the same amount to up to 2 other chosen characters. If your opponent doesn't respect this and they turn something sideways, and you get you take out 3 characters and probably survive with your 6 willpower, that is humongous. And the Moana with nice synergy as well to get her strength back up, and again more copies of Hypnotic Strength to get her strength back up, because that +3 strength is only the turn you shift her. After that she only hits for 2, but we can boost it higher. So yeah, a lot of this traditional evasive Ruby Amethyst, but this Mulan package, a touch of genius. I like the Hypnotic Strength with the shark anyway. Moana's like pretty, I wouldn't say staple, but you see her just as much as you don't. Prince Eric may be a little unnecessary, but I think he's really cool, and it did really well for this player, so congratulations to them. And our final Ruby Amethyst list over in Poland, making top 8. We again have that evasive shark version. 4 shark, 4 Peter Pan. We are seeing 2 copies of Iago. But we're seeing a split, 2 genies and 3 rabbit. I actually really rate this. I think this is the right way to play it. We're playing 9 1-drops, a split of a little bit of everything. 2 snake, 4 fox, 3 crab. We're also playing some cool some cool 2-drops. 3 copies of Pegasus, who's a 3/1 with evasive. If you're against Emerald Amethyst, this Pegasus like really causes them a headache. They struggle to answer it, and it just locks down their Diablos, and like it puts in a lot of work in that matchup. And Lumiere, who gives +1 strength to all your characters, is just like gives you better challenges, helps your characters stay out of the range of things like Brawl and Sisu, Medusa, etc. Most notably, it keeps your genies and your Peter Pans out of Brawl range, which is one of the most important interactions. We are playing 2 copies of Lady Tremaine, and 1 copy of Monstro found his way into this Ruby Amethyst list. And then 3 Library, 4 Friends, 3 Brawl, 2 Pirate's Life, 3 Be Prepared. So yeah, a bit of a wider package, lower counts of things, but overall looks really cool. Congratulations to them. And our final deck list of the day over in Poland, in top 4, we have some Sapphire, Emerald, discard. To be fair, discard isn't like the entire plan, but it's one of the best things that we can do. We are playing 2 copies of Bend to My Will. 7-cost uninkable action. Each opponent discards all cards in their hand. We are running a Clarabelle engine, which is going to be our primary way of drawing cards. Clarabelle at the end of your turn. If your opponent has more cards in their hand than you, then you can draw to match them. And of course, the 1-drop potentially being able to banish an item is not insignificant with workshops and things like that around. We do be ramping. We've got T-Pose and Sales. We've got Grandma Tala to help us find pieces, and How Far I'll Go. 2 copies of McDuck Mana to be another nice way that we can gain lore. And again, if we're building to this point where we're making them discard their hand, and then we're going to drop a mana or 2, we've got high expectations that they're not going to be able to answer it. We're going to have hopefully already answered characters on the board. How are we going to do that? We've got a variety of ways. We've got Kick Cloud Kicker and the Muses that are going to help with characters of 2 strength or less. We've got Genies to bounce things. John Silver's going to give Reckless. Love a bit of John Silver. Mother Gothel is going to bounce characters back to hand. Basil is going to bounce characters back to hand, and whenever he quests, your opponent discards a card at random. We've got Lyle to give them Reckless and hopefully lose our opponent some lore. A couple of Vision of the Future to help us find key pieces on the right turn. A couple of Heffalumps and Woozles to stop the opponent questing, slow them down a bit, and again help us draw cards. And these songs just going to help our Muses trigger. The Heffalumps, the Mother Knows Best, the You're Welcome, the How Far I'll Go. And then a really spicy new card from Reign of Jafar, the legendary Rapunzel High Climber. 5-cost Ingostinkable 2/5 quest for 2, evasive, and whenever she quests, chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn. Falls on her face to red decks, but outside of that, she's pretty... she also falls to Zeus. If they don't have those answers, then an evasive 2/5 quest for 2 is pretty cool, slowing your opponent down with the ability, stopping them questing. This deck is really powerful. It's a deck I hate to go up against, but it's no surprise to see it do well, so a huge congratulations to this player. And that is it. 2 more sets of top 8 deck lists. We're always spoiled at the beginning of a new set, and I'm glad that I've been able to keep on top of it so far. But again, inevitably a long video looking at 2 different events, so I want to wrap it up. But let me know down below your thoughts on this deck list, on these deck lists. How is Reign of Jafar shaping up in your opinion so far? I want to hear all about it down below. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.